Let's start off by answering the question, what are XML Web Services? Now, when you first hear the term XML Web Services, they sound really technical, really complicated, but you're going to find that creating and using these things is fantastically simple. Now, there is a fair amount of rocket science, it seems, in maintaining all this stuff and making it happen. But as the standards have developed, you'll see here Microsoft has done a fabulous job of making these things incredibly useful and powerful and easy for the developer. Let's start off with a simple definition. I got this from a Microsoft publication, and it's a great definition of a web service, an XML web service. It's a simple, flexible, standards-based model for connecting applications together over the Internet. Now, there's another way to say that, and that is that these things work like components. They are actually subroutines, functions that basically get streamed across the Internet through port 80 and go to other machines and work, and we call them, and they perform their actions and pass the data back and forth. They provide black box functionality that we call across the Internet. They do not have a user interface that is generated automatically for you. And it's not much of a user interface, but there is an interface there. But most of the time, you're just going to call these things directly, drop parameters into them, and it'll bounce back your answer. Now, the cool thing about XML web services, they use standard web protocols and formats. Hypertext Transfer Protocol, XML, SOAP, this is Simple Object Access Protocol. And what's the coolest part about this is you really don't have to know anything about these to use web services for the way Microsoft has built them in Visual Studio. Now, I can see you shaking your head and having little remarks to say that, yeah, this is typical Microsoft. You use stuff that you have no idea what's going on. And there is a certain amount of truth in that. At some point, you do want to dig into XML and web services and really learn how to make this stuff work. But when you just need to get something working and you don't need a web service running in your intranet or across the Internet, you can make it happen with Visual Studio really quickly. They're built on stateless architecture. That's cool because, as we've already learned, that's what the Internet is. This is real cool. We can do asynchronous processing and callbacks and so forth with web services. It's based on all W3C standards, so pretty much if it works here, it works anywhere. Now, you should understand that these W3C standards are still evolving. There's adjustments being made to them, and so you will see some need to kind of bend and shape with the times in the future, but that's not going to be a huge problem. So don't get into any big debates with people about what's the best namespace and so forth. All that stuff's going to adjust slightly. Now, let's give an example of a web service. If you go to a website that's a travel site, and you've seen these out there. So you go to this web page, and there is, all this data. In this section, there's hotel data. In this section, there's flight data. In this section down here, there's rent-a-car data. And in this section over here, you can get the weather from anywhere in the world. Now, there is not this huge honking web server somewhere that has all the hotel companies in the world and their reservations, all the automobile companies and their reservations, all the airline companies and their reservations, and then weather everywhere, whatever I said. What they're going to do is usually use a web service. The airline company has provided a web service, or all the airline companies have, and we're just going to submit departure date and time and cities to their web service, and it will kick us back everything out of their schedules. Same thing for the cars and so forth. That's the beauty of web services, because in reality, the server that's holding this web page simply makes calls out to web services that they are subscribing to. That might not make any sense, but after the next video or two, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about.